So you got your temporary residency here in Mexico. Now it's 11 months later and you realize, I need to renew that thing, don't I? Yes. So I got my temporary residency back in January. Come December, time to renew. If you're not sure when you need to renew, just look on your temporary residency card in the bottom right and it has a date of expiration. 30 days before that date is when you can start the renewal process. Now, good news for those of you who did your residency on your own, this is going to be extraordinarily similar and, in fact, easier because you're already in a system. If you hired a facilitator, well, welcome to some fun. This will be great. Now, quick disclaimer, my experience is going to be specific to Cozumel, whereas the paperwork and requirements will be pretty similar across all INM offices. Each INM office may have a unique process or procedures that can vary. For example, the Cozumel office only does renewals for 1 year at a time. However, in Playa del Carmen, that office will do the 3-year renewal. However, Cozumel is more of a walk-in, relaxed procedure. Playa del Carmen, you got to get an appointment, and it can take a few weeks. So your results may vary depending on which INM office you're using. Now, another disclaimer is things can change. So earlier in the year, the Cozumel office was supposedly converting first-year temporary residents over to permanent. That was an option. That's not the case anymore. So each INM office can change their procedures at any time. Who knows? Also, another important note, if you've had any changes over the past year, for instance, marriage, divorce, a resulting name change, or an address change, you need to make sure you let INM know of those changes within 90 days. Now let's review what you actually need for your renewal. This is going to be extraordinarily similar to the residency checklist. However, since you're already in a system, things are going to be a little easier. Now you do need the Formato Básico again. This is the one-page form that you did for your initial residency. It's the one that asks you for not just your name and address and basic info, but what's your religion, what's your height, what's your weight, do you have tattoos, what's your salary, what did you do in your previous country, what are you going to be doing here, all that information. If anything changed on that, just reuse what you had from last time. If you hired a facilitator, don't know what I'm talking about, I have a link in the description below. It's going to be a PDF. Good luck. And for renewal, you're also going to need an application. This is going to be similar to your Conhe or exchange process for residency. It's just you're going to click a slightly different button, similar form, fill it out. This will be pre-populated now because you're in the system. Now also on that page, there will be another link kind of hidden, and that's your renewal letter. This is automatically generated, super easy. You're also going to need a copy of your resident card, front and back, black and white is fine. You'll also need a copy of your passport. Again, black and white is fine. Make sure it includes the page with your signature and your photo. You'll also need a Visa or Mastercard to pay for your renewal. Most INM offices should be accepting credit card by now. And the chance they don't, there's a whole separate process for paying at a Mexican bank and getting a receipt and having that proof of payment. It's a big deal. Hope you don't have to do that. Good luck. And the only other form you need will be, at least for Cozumel, is a form at that office that you'll get. It's a one-pager. It's just a personal data acknowledgement. It's going to have your name, email address, date, and sign it. That's all there is to it. I'll show you an example. Now, what you don't need, you do not need photos. The photos are taken at the INM office. You do not need that proof of payment. Hopefully, most offices should be accepting credit card. Cozumel definitely accepts Visa, MasterCard. You do not need your FMM. You did need this for initial residency, but you don't need that anymore. Your FMM is that document we used to have to fill out when we were on the airplane before we get into Mexico. Now it's all digital. And for those of you who got your residency via economic solvency or financial independence, you don't need to show any bank statements again. You're good. Now the Formato Básico, if you did this yourself last time, just reuse the same document, easy peasy, make any updates if needed. If a facilitator did this and you don't have a copy, this could be the most difficult, but You're going to hit the link below here, and this will take you to this web page here, and you will simply scroll down to the bottom, and you'll see a copy of the form, and you'll hit that Descargar button. That'll download a copy of the PDF for you to view and fill out the form. If you have a PDF tool or you're using Preview in Mac, you can actually just add text fields directly into the PDF. That makes it much easier. So let's walk through the renewal form. If you did this on your own last time, this is going to be actually even easier. If you didn't or need a refresher, we'll walk through that now. So from this website here, we're going to scroll down and hit the big red button. That's all of your migratory forms. And then we'll get the list of all the things we can do. Here's that notice about changes. So you're changing address, you're changing work, you're changing marriage or divorce or a name change. That's what the maroon buttons are for. But it's the gold section that we're worried about. The first one, for Canje, for exchange, that's what you did the first time. And then the second one is the one for renewal, issuance of immigration document by renewal. We'll hit that. Now, before we get to the actual form, if you scroll down and go to requirements first, they have this button here in the upper left actually is a list, a little PDF document, a little cheat sheet of all the requirements. And what I like is that it's in English and in Spanish. And so it tells you exactly what to do is you're going to extend your stay and issue the card for renewal. So I really appreciate that he put this here, and it gives you a list of all the forms, and then it tells you about photos and that you don't really need photos, and proof of payment, but then they accept payment, and so on and so forth. So thanks. So we'll go back to the form, and if we go to the application, the button in the upper left, that generates the actual form for you. And what's awesome is we're going to scroll down here. We'll say extend my stay, the first option. And the reason will be for renewal, renovation. And what's awesome is I'm going to click or check this box, and it's going to ask for my NUE, and that's the number in the upper right of your resident card. Type that in, and it pre-populates the form for you, and you're done. You can update any information there, and you'll be good to go. Now, if you are completing forms for another person, maybe for a family member, you want to hit the agregar persona, and here you'll enter the information of the person who will be submitting documentation. So this probably is you for your child or partner. Enter your CURP number, which is also on the front of your ID card, your first and middle name, your last name, your nationality, and then identification document. You can say passport. Enter that and your passport number, and you're good to go. And that's it. Now, also, what we need from this site is it talks about the renewal letter. So if you open up the requirements section and scroll down, it's kind of hidden, but you see these 3 green links. So depending on your condition, if you are doing residency by marriage, or if you're a minor, you'll hit those. But if it's for financial solvency, you'll hit this last one. And this is basically for all other conditions. And this also is a form that pre-populates. Enter your names, your document number. And by the way, the document number, this is going to be the number on the back of your resident card. It is a 8-digit number right below your signature. Populate that there, names, nationality, and your address, and the captcha code, and you're done. This is what that document looks like. And the only other document you need, like I mentioned earlier, is the personal data acknowledgement. This is what that form looks like. Just make sure you print your name, date, sign, and enter your email address. The overall experience in Cozumel for renewal is going to be very similar to the residency. If it's really important that you get in and out quickly, you can get there early, maybe 10, 15 minutes before they open. And they usually open what I would call 9-ish. So get there 10, 15 minutes before 9, you'll be fine. And again, you don't really need to schedule an appointment for the Cozumel INM office. Other INM offices, you probably do, especially in the bigger towns. But line up, come in, sign in at the book, and that's going to be your name, nationality, time and date of visit, and what your reason is. Have a seat, wait to be called up. In INM office, the gentleman to the right, he's the one who takes your photos and your fingerprints. Lady to your left, she's the one who calls you up, reviews your documents, processes them, and takes your payment. Now, the INM office in Cozumel is doing documents, and they are taking your photos and fingerprints all in the same day. And usually at the end of the day, around 4 o'clock is when to actually get your card to you. So that's pretty amazing. Taking your documents, processing them, doing your biometrics, and getting a card all in one day, amazing. Now, if you have a family, you're submitting documents for other family members, I would put everyone's documents into separate folders. The immigration officer, she's only going to want to kind of focus on one application at a time. And also for payment, you're only going to pay for one person at a time. So if you have 3 family members, there's going to be 3 separate payments. They'll ask for your physical resident card and actually tape that to the copy you gave them of the resident card. So they'll keep that. So everything will get reviewed, processed. You'll make your payment, sign the receipt, and then there'll be 3 copies of a data acknowledgement that you have to print your name and sign. Why there's 3 copies, I don't know. If you're able to wait around, they will do your photos and fingerprints probably 30 minutes to an hour afterwards. Depends on how many people are there. That process is a little bit slower, but for each person, the entire paperwork process takes a good 15 to 20 minutes. So if you arrive at the office and see it's kind of crowded, you could be there a while. But do understand, half the people in there are probably facilitators who are helping people like us get our documents processed. So it's not as busy as it might look. So if you have a family member who's working remotely and they don't have quite as flexible of a schedule, do know that you can schedule their photo and fingerprint appointment for a later date. Usually it's going to be 2 or 3 days later, and the appointment is typically to do them between 10 and noon. So that is an option if you need it. The person only needs to be present for the photo and the fingerprints. You can submit documents on behalf of someone else, and you can pick up the ID card on behalf of someone else. Just bring the passport of that person and you'll be fine. Now, some tips for making this process easier. Number 1, I have a checklist in the description below. Please use that. I have links to the Formato Básico. I have links to the INM form that you need to use for this. So should be easy peasy. As long as you can get your photocopies done, you'll be fine. If you haven't already, make sure you join Facebook groups for expat communities in the town you're going to do your renewal in. This is really important because if there's any changes in the immigration office procedures, not just expat, but also facilitators and lawyers are often in those groups as well. And they can key you in on maybe any weird quirks of that office or any changes that have happened. So there's also Facebook groups for kind of Mexico-wide immigration. These are good if you're going to be in a different town for your renewal than when you did your residency. This is also good for maybe knowing any weird quirks of other offices, or if it's going to be easier or harder at a different office than what you've done before. Now, another tip is to be patient and flexible. Things can happen. The INM office is pretty amazing that they can process a renewal in just 1 day. However, things can happen. There could be a network outage. There could be a printer that's down. There could be a government holiday you didn't realize was happening. So budget some extra time. You might get it done in 1 day, but you might not. It's going to be okay. Make sure you have enough time to accommodate for that. And another really important tip is always print your name exactly as it is shown in your passport, and also sign your name as closely as possible as to what's seen in your passport. This is really, really important, not just for Mexico, but for many other countries. That signature needs to look really darn close as to what's in your passport every time. Otherwise, you might have to redo some forms. They might not accept them. You might have to redo them. And another tip, any of those big changes I talked about, change in address, changing your name, maybe due to marriage or divorce, those things you do need to let INM know within 90 days. Now, if they realize one of these changes happened more than 90 days ago, they could hit you with a fine. Now, all of these changes have separate forms on the INM website. You'll do electronic form, a PDF, and you'll submit it in person. So if you move around a lot, you're going to be hitting INM a lot. Just saying. So for those of you up for renewal, I hope this video has been helpful for you. My Spanish is mediocre at best, and I was able to get not just my paperwork processed, but paperwork for another person, and it went pretty darn smooth. So use the checklist below. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. If I don't know the answer, someone else might. So please share that, or share your experience, how it went for you, either in Cozumel or another INM office. I'd be curious to know. Otherwise, travel well, be well traveled. See you in Mexico.